These are the toughest, by the way. It'll get easier.
Okay.
In the Fire was supposed to be kind of a turning point for you, I guess, in terms of like lyrical content and whatnot. It seemed to take a more serious approach.
Why, you didn't think the last one was very serious?
He didn't think the last one, I guess, was as serious.
Oh.
Well, apparently you even said in the last interview that this magazine did with you that your participation in Northern Lights was kind of a turning point. Made you realize that you had to kind of...
Well, I'd experimented, with a few different sort of story ideas in past records, but I think this album, if anything, was sort of the amalgamation of a lot of different ideas I've had over the last few years. And Northern Lights certainly was a turning point. So I guess from that standpoint, yeah, there was a lot more focus on making sure the songs really had a good story to them, And but I always felt that our lyrics were quite good in the past. I've always liked our lyrics. I think, some of them are quite humorous and some of them have a good twist to them, and I like what we've done.
Like you say, you concentrate a little more on stories, but how would that say different from the past?
Well, if you took a song like Rebel and compared it to... But see, Summer 69's a story too, you see. And so is Run to You. But I mean, if you compared, Native Son to Heaven, whereas Heaven's a simple love song, Native Son's very sort of... it's got, I think, one of my best lyrics. And... mind you, Heaven's a good lyric too, but it just is very different, This album was a lot less about love songs and more about storytelling, I think.
Something like The Heat of the Night seems like a tale of a man who's haunted.
Right.
Is that autobiographical at all?
Not at all.
It's just something you came up with.
Well, yeah. We came up with the chorus in The Heat of the Night, and then we thought, well, how are we going to make this different? We can't write about heat of the night, passion, love, kissing. Let's write about something else. And so we came up with the theme based around a film we saw called The Third Man, which is about a guy being chased through the sewers of Vienna, and the dark images and the whole idea of a guy. But it was also come into... we'd gone to Berlin just prior to doing some writing, and the whole idea of that walls sort of really intrigued me, how some people can be just walled in like that. And so it's sort of a little bit about escaping from Berlin and escaping from unknown people chasing you, but it's not autobiographical at all.
Do you think you were feeling any undue pressure at the time when you were writing the material for that album?
No. If anything, I felt as though Reckless sort of closed the book on the first chapter, and we were starting a whole different thing with this album. And that we're moving into, I don't know, we've been writing songs for 10 years now, that we should keep exploring and changing and experimenting with songwriting so that we don't repeat ourselves, And it's easy, once you've had some big top 10 hits to fall into the trap of just wanting more top 10 hits. And with this record I really felt as though we should try and experiment with it and see if we could stretch our imagination and boundaries beyond what we've done in the past.
Looking back in retrospect now, I guess it came out in May of last year, was it? It's almost been a year since it came out. Looking back in retrospect on it, how do you evaluate it now?
I think it was a good move. The whole thing's been great, It wasn't received as well in North America. And I think a lot of that really is because anyone that has an enormous record in North America, the next record has a very, very hard time being accepted. I don't know why that is. I mean, everybody from Michael Jackson all the way down the line, unless you're really a teen pop artist, it's difficult to have a big record and then come back and have another big record. So, in a way, I was really quite pleased because this album has been received really well in Europe and in Japan, and quite well in North America. I mean, I can't say that it's done badly there. It's done, a couple million albums, which is incredible. But certainly not anywhere near what Reckless has done.
Which of the new songs get the best response on the road?
Well, we only play about half of the album, so Heat of the Night and Native Son gets a great response, and we open our show with Only the Strong Survive, so they all get quite good response.
Do you think people have kind of picked up on the change, though?
I don't know.
Have you gotten any response from your fans?
Very little negative response. No, people just, they either like what I do or they don't,
Do you find your fans are changing at all?
It's hard to tell. My audience is such a wide cross-section of people, it's difficult to know who exactly my fans are.
Do you think they'll stick with you, like once they...
I think so, yeah.
But do you ever have any chance to say, get your feedback from them? Do they write you much?
Yeah, I get a lot of mail, and most of it's very positive.
What kind of things do they write you about? Do they write in response to the music, or do they write to you for advice? Or
everything is most of it's just I really like the album, or when you coming to Denmark. I don't know. It's everything,
I think you read something you said in an interview, or else in the last interview, you said something about not thinking about music as an occupation. Having wanted to become a fireman, thinking of that as an occupation, or as what you're doing now.
And that was a joke.
It was a joke.
Yeah. And doesn't everybody, as a boy, want to be a fireman?
That's right.
Right.
But do you think of your work as more something physical, manual, or is it more mental, intellectual?
It's all of the above. But I've always had a saying that as soon as it starts to feel like a job, then I don't want to do it anymore.
But it must feel like that. Would you be on the road?
Trying to intellectualize what I do is impossible. I can't sit here and try and intellectualize my work because or analyze it and just dissect it, because it's just something I really like to do. I'm really fortunate that I've been able to go as far with it as I have. And I'm pleased that I can make the plans I want to now. For example, instead of going out and doing 9 months on the road and then going back into the record, we can break it up and just do little mini tours, which make things more exciting as opposed to just having to go out on tour. I hate going on tour.
Your tour is incredibly long, though.
My tours never end. And I worry about my health and I worry about my sanity, because being out here for long periods of time can be very detrimental. So the best thing to do is not do it for long periods of time, and do it in short spurts.
I hear this is your 10th month on the road, though?
Well, we started in May.
Yeah, so that would be about your 9th or 10th now, I guess.
Yeah, but in that period, I've forced myself and my organization to slow down and to do it, less vigorously, although we did 4 months in America, which felt like a bloody job by the time we finished that, I managed to convince everybody that a month off would do us a lot of good. So by the time we got to Europe and we started our first gig in Newcastle, we were so refreshed from being away from it that it was again exciting. And that's when it becomes fun to do it. A new place with a fresh feeling, as opposed to coming off on one tour going bang right into the next one. You had some time to to regroup your thoughts and do a little bit of writing and stay at home and dig the garden and then go back out on the road for a couple of months.
You talked about a mini tour. What did you mean by that?
Well, this is a mini tour. Going to Japan for 2 weeks, and then we're going to spend about 6 weeks to 2 months at home writing and recording the new LP, and then I'm going to go to Europe for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'm going to come back home and do some more writing and recording, and then I'm going to go to Australia for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to come back, do some more writing and recording, and then who knows from there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Does that kind of strike a good balance for you?
I think that's the way to do it. I don't see myself as this road hog anymore. It's just it's just too much. Yeah. I hate hotels and I hate room service, and I really hate flying, and so it's nice to be able to do it little by little.
Seems like that would be even more exhausting to go back and forth and back and forth.
Be more exhausting?
Yeah, to go write, record, go on the road for a little while, write, record, back and forth, as opposed to concentrating on something for, say, a half a year at a time.
Well, maybe, but the good thing about that is that I can take new songs and experiment with them on the road, and that is some of the best. That's how the best things get brought about. You know, I mean, Cuts Like a Knife and Reckless. A lot of those songs were played live before they were actually recorded, and Into the Fire, maybe half the record was performed live, and I think you can learn a lot from taking the songs and touring them first, as opposed to making a studio record, just studio songs, you know.
You said you didn't feel any pressure when you were writing the songs for this last album, but when Reckless hit #1, did you think that would be like your last #1 record, and that you could thus go on to other?
Well, you have to understand, I never expected Reckless to ever be #1 in the first place. You know, I mean, the album came out a year. The album went to #1 a year after its release.
But did you feel any pressure to follow that up though with another #1?
Not really, because I thought it was so freaky that it happened in the first place.
Is that right? But I mean, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world to me. As a matter of fact, when I found out it was #1, I thought, well, it's happened before, hasn't it? I thought that you'd done it before, like on Cuts with a Knife.
Yeah, everyone thinks that. I mean, if I was to tell anybody that Cuts Like a Knife never went top 10, they'd probably think I was mad. But it never even got in the top 40.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought that was the song that took you around the world, though.
See, the illusion is bigger than reality.
Was that so? It's absolutely no pressure at all now to.
Non buono to myślisz.
Steady.
Excuse me.
To hear about your philosophy toward it. Yeah, you basically think of rock and roll as something that should make you feel good, as opposed to making you stop and think.
I think it should do both.
Like the rock and roll you have always loved, that is other people's music. Do you think it's had that effect on you?
Sure.
Like what kind of thing comes to mind?
Well, Revolution. Dozens of songs. I mean, there's especially nowadays, there's more of an emphasis on artists coming up with more socially aware type of songs. But I mean, Dylan made me think that way. You know. Sting makes me think. There's lots of great songwriters and songs out there that have the ability to make you dance and sing and think at the same time.
Do you think Bryan Adams is making people think now?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Makes me think.
I mean, do you think you have any songs that that maybe can stop people and make them think about something?
It's completely, strange question, because I have no idea what people think. I can't say what other people think. I have no idea.
It's just you do what comes naturally to you. Don't give any.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people have tried to find hidden meanings and analogies and tried to dissect it, but it's just rock and roll music. I mean, that's all it is.
Another serious question here. With so many people looking up to you, do you feel any responsibility in terms of living right or providing a good example for them?
Well, it's nice to think that people look up to you. And I suppose you should be responsible. But, I mean, I don't try and let people know much about me anyway. So, whatever you see is really on the record, and what you hear from the music is probably going to be the most you'll ever know me. And I suppose that's responsible enough.
Well, another question here is that, from what you can tell about Bryan Adams, the public figure, and Bryan Adams, the musician, that is through your music, you seem to be a person who lives a very clean life. You don't seem like the type of person to do anything wrong, not the archetypal rock and roller who trashes hotel rooms and does a lot of... That's
also really boring, isn't it? I mean, breaking hotel rooms.
About trashing hotel rooms.
Yeah.
So basically, you live a clean life then, huh?
Well, I mean, we all have our ups and downs, and I just don't let my little idiosyncrasies into the public eye, you know.
Okay. Whatever that's supposed to mean. You ever find yourself becoming destructive, though?
Sure. One of my biggest ambitions was to be a drummer, and I always envy drummers now because they get all their frustration out on their kit. But actual destruction for the sake of destruction, probably not. But I tend to get mad and throw things across the room, you know.
Let the ego show every now and then.
Not in public.
Not in public. How do you control yourself on the road? I mean, you go crazy after a while. What do you do to
I go home.
What do you do to keep your mind together, though? Like when you're in your 5th or 6th month on the road, you're in the middle of...
I remodel my kitchen for the 3rd time when I go out. I don't know. What do I do when I go out on the road?
How do you stay sane on the road?
Well, I mean, like I told you, I try not to go out for long periods of time because that's when it starts to settle in. Everyone gets road fever, and just the thought of going and seeing these guys again just makes you puke, you know. So the idea of getting away from it is a good idea and coming back to it because it's like any job. I mean, everyone needs time away, otherwise it becomes too much like a job, you know.
Getting back to the list of questions here, you talked about how the fire didn't sell as much as Reckless. You analyzed what happened in terms of like a jinx. You said like in North America.
No, I'm really pleased because the album was, in my mind, geared more to a European market than it was to North America. I purposely didn't want to do the same thing again, you know.
But that's all it boils down to.
That's all it boils down to.
Nothing else?
Nothing.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, I mean, I mean, there isn't Heaven Part 2, you know, there isn't Summer 69 Part 2, you know, we didn't try to follow up our songs with another sequel, you know. I hate Beverly Hills Cop 17 or whatever it is, you know. I think it's really boring when you do that. I mean, it's nice to try and do something different, and if it does well and people like it, then you've succeeded, you know. Reckless was a lot of songs that we've written over a period of time that came together all at once, and I mean, I would never ever have thought that those songs would be that big. I think we just caught a wave. I mean, I think a lot of the songs on Cuts Like a Knife are really good too, but they never did as well as anything on Reckless. So I believe it was just the time, you know. It was the right album at the right time, and the right attitude with the right tour. You know what I mean? It's just the right... We caught a wave, as they say, and it did well.
Mm-hmm. You saw the show last night, and you were saying how you appeared to him to be like the average guy is putting 120% of his strength into putting on the best show he could, as opposed to, say, a pop icon, and going into a persona and doing a performance.
Right.
Is that your approach to it, basically?
Well, it's really hard to be spontaneous, you know, after you've done it so many times. But the best way to do that is to change the show around, so that none of us, even though there is a set list and people know what's going to happen, you throw a couple of twisters in there to keep everybody on their toes, and it makes the show that much more interesting, you know.
What kind of thing are you talking about?
Well, last night we did Coming Home in the set, which we don't normally do, and we all throw in some odd rock and roll songs every now and then, or I'll play Into the Fire by myself like I did last night at the end of the show with it. All these things are new things I've tried, you know. And it's just good to experiment, you know. I mean, sometimes we fail miserably, but at least we tried something different, you know. It's so easy to get into the trap of doing the same thing every night. And as far as pop icon, well, the thing is I don't really know how else to present myself. You know, I don't know. I wouldn't know how else to do it. But that's the best way I know how to present myself.
To be yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't do Rebel, or what is this? Remembrance Day, is that the name of the song?
Right.
those were missing from last night's show. Have they been missing from the entire tour?
We played Remembrance Day once on stage. And it's a long song. And, well, I think it's a better studio song than it is a live song. That's a classic example of a song which we never played live, and we went in the studio and cut. And as a result, it's difficult to catch a real vibe on the song, because it's very sort of asymmetric as a song. You know, there's no real ups and downs. It just goes along straight like that. Whereas if I had performed the song a lot before recording it, I may have added some more dynamics to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Rebel we have played many times. In fact, we played it yesterday in soundcheck. And I almost added it to the show last night, but didn't.
So it kind of evolved as a live tune, which is
yeah.
The other one
Yeah.
in the studio too.
Right. Well, Rebel we do play live occasionally. Are you coming again?
Vi har ikke også til Grenland i dag.
He has other plans today, unfortunately.
Okay.
He did enjoy it quite a bit last night.
Great, thank you.
We're getting towards the end here. Let me see. There's one more left on here. You say you're going to go back and start working on new material, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'll be taking the same sort of? Well, I don't think we agree on the observation that the Into the Fire lyrics are necessarily more serious than those before that. But do you think you're going to continue along the same lines as Into the Fire?
I think the next album will probably be far more basic than anything I've done in the past. And I don't think it'll be anything like Into the Fire.
Far more basic? Like, what do you mean?
Well, you have to wait and see. The way I see it now, it's going to be pretty much a real simplistic record. It's not going to be over-arranged, or it's going to be overthought. It's going to be quite simple in arrangement and structure, and the songs are going to be simple. And it'll probably be much more a back-to-roots record than I've ever done before.
Is that right? I mean, no offense or anything, but you've never been known for complexity or anything. It's always been pretty straightforward.
I know. But if you knew how much thought and arrangement had to go into what we do, you know, you'd be surprised.
So this will be a little more rootsy then, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
What are your roots? How would you define your roots?
Well, I would think that next record will probably be just, you know, when I say arrangement-wise, I mean just bass and drums and guitar, but lots of space, you know.
This will be the Bryan Adams Nebraska album.
No, absolutely not. It would be more like Rubber Soul.
Like Rubber Soul? Okay. Just you and an acoustic guitar then?
No, Rubber Soul was an acoustic guitar. There was a lot of acoustic guitar, but it was drums, and it was good vocal arrangements, and it was tambourines and electric guitars and
folksy
bass. It won't be folk.
Okay, well let's not categorize the album for now.
No, you can't.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
And so we came up with the theme based around a film we saw called The Third Man, which is about a guy being chased through the sewers of Vienna, and the dark images and the whole idea of a guy. But it was also come into we'd gone to Berlin just prior to doing some writing, and the whole idea of that walls sort of really intrigued me, how some people can be just walled in like that. And so it's sort of a little bit about escaping from, I think, you know, some of them are quite humorous and some of them have a good twist to them, and I like what we've done.
Like you say, you concentrate a little more on stories, but how would that say different from the past?
Well, if you took a song like Rebel and compared it to, but see, Summer '69's a story too, you see, and so is Run to You. But I mean, if you compared, you know, Native Son to Heaven, whereas Heaven's a simple love song, Native Son's very sort of, it's got, I think, one of my best lyrics, and in past records. But I think this album, if anything, was so the amalgamation of a lot of different ideas I've had over the last few years. And Northern Lights certainly was a turning point So I guess from that standpoint, yeah, there was a lot more focus on making sure the songs really had a good story to them, you know. And but I always felt that our lyrics were quite good in the past. I've always liked our lyrics.
Okay, these are the toughest, by the way. It'll get easier.
Okay.
In the Fire was supposed to be kind of a turning point for you, I guess, in terms of like lyrical content and whatnot. It seemed to take a more serious approach.
Why, you didn't think the last one was very serious?
He didn't think the last one, I guess, was as serious.
Oh.
Well, apparently you even said in the last interview that this magazine did with you that your participation in Northern Lights was kind of a turning point. Made you realize that you had to kind of...
Well, I'd experimented, you know, with a few different sort of story ideas. Mind you, Heaven's a good lyric too, but it just is very different, you know. This album had was a lot less about love songs and more about storytelling, I think.
Something like The Heat of the Night seems like a tale of a man who's haunted.
Right.
Is that autobiographical at all?
Not at all.
It's just something you came up with.
Well, yeah, we came up with the chorus in The Heat of the Night, and then we thought, well, how are we going to make this different? Well, we can't write about heat of the night, you know, passion, love, kissing. Let's write about something else. And